At 40, Lewis Hamilton finally reveals the 5 drivers he hated. Most they called him ice cold, unshakable, untouchable, 7 world titles, over 100 wins, a legacy carved into Formula One history. But behind the helmets, behind the champagne celebrations, there were wars. Because greatness in Formula One doesn't come without enemies. It comes with collisions, radio rants, silent stares on the podium, moments where respect turns into something darker. At 40, after years of dominance, controversy, and psychological battles at 200 miles per hour, Lewis Hamilton is no longer dodging the question. He's no longer smiling through it. For the first time, the man who conquered the sport is opening up about the 5 drivers who pushed him past his limits, the 5 rivals he couldn't stand, the 5 names that fueled his fire, and some of them might shock you. Who Lewis Hamilton really is. Before the rivalries, before the tension, there was a kid from Stevenage who refused to believe limits applied to him. Lewis Hamilton didn't just enter Formula One, he detonated it. From a fearless rookie challenging champions to a 7-time world title winner, he redefined what dominance looked like in the modern era. Precision, relentless pace, ice in his veins when the pressure peaked. But Hamilton was never just about speed. He carried the weight of expectation, criticism, and history on his shoulders. Every victory was earned under a microscope, every mistake magnified. And when you live at that level for nearly 2 decades, friction isn't optional, it's inevitable. Driver number 5, Nico Rosberg. It started as friendship, long before the championships, before the silver arrows. Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg were just 2 karting kids chasing the same dream. They laughed together, traveled together, promised they'd race in Formula One side by side one day, and they did. But when both landed at Mercedes, friendship turned into something far more dangerous. Rosberg wasn't intimidated by Hamilton's raw speed. He studied him, matched him, pushed him in ways few drivers ever could. Wheel-to-wheel clashes in Bahrain, controversy in Monaco, the infamous collision in Spain that wiped them both out on the opening lap. It wasn't just racing anymore. It was psychological warfare. Inside the same garage, in equal machinery, fighting for the same crown. Every pole position felt personal. Every team radio message carried tension. Every handshake on the podium looked colder than the champagne in their hands. And in 2016, Rosberg did the unthinkable. He beat Hamilton to the World Championship, then walked away from the sport days later. For Lewis, that wasn't just defeat, it was betrayal from someone who once called him a friend. Driver number 4, Fernando Alonso. Before the championships stacked up, before Mercedes' dominance, there was 2007. A rookie named Lewis Hamilton walked into McLaren. On the other side of the garage stood a reigning 2-time world champion, Fernando Alonso. Alonso wasn't just fast, he was established, political, ruthless when it came to protecting his territory. McLaren was supposed to be built around him. The young British newcomer? He was meant to learn. But Hamilton didn't play the role. From the very first race, he matched Alonso corner for corner. He refused to move aside. He refused to accept number 2 status. And suddenly, the garage wasn't united. It was divided. Qualifying controversies in Hungary, tense team radio messages, silent debrief rooms where eye contact meant everything. The battle wasn't just on track, it was inside the team walls. They finished the season tied on points. Tied. For Alonso, that was unacceptable. For Hamilton, it was proof he belonged. The rivalry burned hot, fast, and publicly. And even years later, whenever their cars lined up on the grid, there was always that extra edge. Not friendship, not warmth, just unfinished business from a season that changed both of their careers forever. Driver number 3, Sebastian Vettel. If Rosberg was personal and Alonso was political, Sebastian Vettel was pure war. For years, Vettel was the golden boy of Formula One. 4 straight world championships with Red Bull. Dominant, clinical, untouchable. Then Hamilton found the car to fight back. When Mercedes and Ferrari locked horns in 2017 and 2018, the rivalry exploded. This wasn't a teammate battle. This was 2 empires colliding. Baku 2017, Vettel pulls alongside Hamilton under the safety car and deliberately bumps wheels. A moment of anger broadcast to millions. a statement that this fight wasn't going to be polite. They traded pole positions, traded victories, traded psychological blows in press conferences. Vettel accused Hamilton of brake testing. Hamilton called it dangerous. Every corner between them carried risk. Unlike Rosberg, Vettel wasn't inside Lewis's garage. He was coming for him from across the paddock, and he wanted the throne back. But pressure changes people. As the championship battles tightened, small mistakes began creeping into Vettel's season. Spins, lockups, costly errors at critical moments. And Hamilton? He stayed calm, calculated, relentless. By the end, it wasn't just about speed. It was about composure. And in that department, Hamilton broke Vettel mentally, long before he beat him on points. Driver number 2, Max Verstappen. Some rivalries are tense. This one was explosive. When Max Verstappen arrived at the front of the grid, he didn't come to learn from Lewis Hamilton. He came to dethrone him. Younger, fearless, aggressive to the edge of control. Verstappen drove like a man who believed the future already belonged to him. And in 2021, the sport reached a boiling point. Wheel-to-wheel battles at Silverstone, a 51G crash that sent Hamilton into the barriers. Monza, both cars tangled and out. Saudi Arabia, brake tests, penalties, accusations flying across team radios. It wasn't just racing anymore. It was survival. Every race weekend felt like a title fight. Two completely different philosophies colliding at 200 miles per hour. Hamilton, the seasoned master of pressure. Verstappen, the relentless attacker who refused to yield a single inch. The championship went down to the final lap in Abu Dhabi, a controversial finish that still divides fans today. For Hamilton, this wasn't just another competitor. This was the moment the new generation tried to rip the crown from his hands. And whether you blame strategy, luck, or politics, one thing was clear. Lewis had never faced a rival this uncompromising. This wasn't personal history like Rosberg. See, this wasn't pride like Alonso. This was a war for an era. Driver number 1, the one he couldn't escape. The biggest rival Lewis Hamilton ever faced wasn't just another driver. It was expectation. But if we're naming a man, it was the one who forced Lewis to grow up overnight. Fernando Alonso may have been political. Rosberg may have been personal. Verstappen may have been explosive. But the rivalry that cut deepest, the one that never truly cooled, traces back to 2007. Because that season didn't just create tension, it created scars. Alonso didn't just challenge Hamilton's speed, he challenged his right to belong inside the same team, in the same machinery, under the same spotlight. Every meeting felt like a power struggle. Every qualifying lap carried something extra. Lewis wasn't just racing for points, he was racing for respect. And when the season collapsed into controversy, politics, and a championship lost by a single point, the damage was already done. It shaped how Hamilton would handle teammates forever. It shaped how he dealt with pressure. It shaped the cold, controlled persona the world would later call inevitable. Some rivalries are loud. Some are violent. But the ones that truly stay with you, they're the ones that teach you there's no such thing as friendship when a world title is on the line. And Lewis Hamilton never forgot that lesson. Rivalries don't define greatness. They reveal it. For over a decade, Lewis Hamilton stood at the center of Formula One's fiercest battles. Teammates turned enemies, champions turned critics, young challengers determined to erase his legacy. But here's the truth. Every driver who pushed him, every collision, every controversy, every bitter handshake on the podium, built the champion we know today. Because pressure doesn't break legends. It forges them. At 40, Hamilton's story isn't just about the titles or the records. It's about surviving wars inside the cockpit and still finding a way to rise above them. 5 rivals, 5 battles, 1 legacy. And whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny one thing. Lewis Hamilton never backed down.